All right, so workshop one, which is this one, we're gonna an introduction to what we're doing, which I've just kind of gone through a little bit of introduction. Then we're going to talk about busting some myths because there's some stories we tell ourselves that are only true if we believe them. They don't have to be true necessarily. And then we'll talk about consistency and backslides and kind of the differences there. And then of course we'll do plenty of Q&A, and we'll do Q&A kind of all along as well, because I definitely want us to really develop and dig in on some of these ideas. Workshop two, we're going to be talking about mastering your mindset and that decision-making focus. And then we're going to also, I'm going to mute all here. There we go. The way out, some mantras on battling and getting your way out, and then how to stay on track with accountability, and then our conclusions and kind of what are our next steps and what to do after that. So the first question I have for you guys is, do you feel like you cannot coach your clients through something you cannot succeed in yourself? So let's just toss that around here, and what do you, does your lack of progress hinder you being able to help other people at moments? I want you to go first. Yeah, go ahead, Josh.
Yeah, it seems kind of hypocritical if you're not fully engaged and somebody else needs something that you're struggling with yourself. And there's been times when that has actually helped me, the coaching aspect of it, and kind of helped me along. But as far as like engaging new clients, I guess for me, that's where my hang up has been, because you kind of go back and forth, and I've had words that have been ringing in my ears that you said last night about the 5-1, that if you pick up on the 5-1 where you left off, how are you doing? And that has been, I wrote that down and I got a sticky note on my mirror in my bathroom, one on my pickup and one on my fridge, that all say that, just to look at myself so I don't add anything, whether it's a pinch of salt or a quarter teaspoon of pudding into my shake. Just clean, like I did the first week that I ever did 5-1. So, but going back to your question, yes, that does hinder my wanting to reach out to clients, because I'm not trying to think of the word. I'm not pure in my faith, if you will.
Yeah, it's really good, Josh. The distinction there you had, continuing to work with clients that you've already have is one thing. But if it's sabotaging your zeal to go and be an evangelist, if you will, for wellness, something inside of you gets stuck there and you can't quite get through that. Very great insight. That's really, really helpful. Brian, go ahead.
Gosh, Josh took the words out of my mouth. I mean, right now I'm in a place where I had gained 38 pounds or so back when I'd lost 110. I didn't go back to what I used to do. I used to gain more weight than I lost.
Okay.
But because I got good, healthy habits with this. But it still hurts getting new clients. What I am doing now, I'm working out. I'm lifting weights 4 days a week. I am walking 6 days a week. I take one day off. It's Sunday every week. But I struggle with the 5-1 with also trying to gain muscle at the same time.
Okay. Yeah, and that's very good insight there. Couple things based upon what you just said is one, and I'm not saying this is true, so I'm just putting out a premise. Could it be that exercise is something you can control when emotional eating or cravings and those types of things, you don't have control over those? And
And I
so
have
you control what you can control, which is everybody can get themselves to the gym and they can sweat for a little while. Great. Right? Is that
you're
maybe?
dead on. You're dead
Oh,
on. Our friends love to drink. And
okay.
our weekends consist of they want some drinks. and I partake in that. My problem right now is getting off plan on the weekends,
Wow.
every weekend.
Um, by the way, Brian just set the table that we're going to be real. We're going to just go there. There's no secrets. We're not going to hold anything back. Let's learn. Let's let all of the stuff out. And this is a type of group that we're going to engineer and workshop this thing. And if we hold something back, we don't have accurate data. So don't posture with ego here. Like, just be frank and direct. And so what I just heard you say, Brian, is that exercise is something you can control. And in your social life, there's alcoholic beverages that are connected to your friends.
Yep.
And you don't have extra friends just hanging around that you can go hang out with. So the ones you are with are the ones that drink. And right now, you don't possess the skill set or nuance to be able to be with the drinking buddies and not drink.
You're right. And my drinking buddies in the beginning got on plan with me.
Okay.
And they weren't drinking. That's why I had success. Now all of a sudden my drinking buddies are drinking again.
Oh, man, that's so good. It's so real. Like that, when you say that, everybody's going, that seems like that happens to a lot of us, right? And so if that's happened with any of you, you know you're not alone, because Brian has that too. And I find that the social aspect to the enjoyment of our life is in relationship with other people. And oftentimes when we're in relationship, multiple times a day, we'll get hungry. It's going to happen for the rest of our lives. And so food and friends are always going to intermingle at some point. And so if we don't have the skill sets to navigate that with our current set of friends, then we can develop that skill set or develop new friends. Both of those is going to be its own thing. And that's why being a coach allows us to be connected to a community of people that in the big picture care about their health. We desire to move forward, and so we can support each other. Like, for example, you might go to a convention or a training, and when we serve a meal, likely it's not going to be based on alcohol. It's going to be lean and green. So you have a little bit more, well, quite a bit more safety in this environment. And then we can develop our kind of our wingman with other coaches. And so the social aspect is legit, and it needs to be like looked at, because it's not a small, it's not just an easily, I don't want to use the words hard and easy, because it just is what it just is. But it is a necessary function to be able to remain in community and in relationship with people, because that's nurturing to our souls. And then find out what are the accessories that go with those relationships, right? So excellent, really great stuff there, Brian. Karen, unmute.
Mute. There we go.
There you go. I was afraid to hit unmute, because then you would mute and then we'd be fighting over the button.
Yeah, I completely relate with Brian. I love a good martini. And because of that, you and I have been talking for months. And in October, I decided it's going to be Sober October. And I told you about it so that you can hold me accountable. And
I'm Karen's direct coach, by the way.
yes.
Karen and Dawn, I directly coach. Yep.
And every week, I let you know, hey, what's something good that happened. I haven't had a drink. Can you close the door? So that was a huge win. And it does mean that your friendships change. We all of our friends enjoy cocktails, all of them. But it comes to a point where you feel responsible for not just your health, but their health and their life. You know,
Mhm.
if they're bringing bottles, plural, of wine over for a dinner party, and now they leave your home not in the best of condition.
Oh, yeah.
Wow, talk about coaching. And they don't have to be my clients for me to coach them and say, you know what? Why don't you spend the night? Or why don't you stop drinking and wait a few hours?
Yeah.
And it's tough. And we've scaled way back with some of our friends.
Yeah.
And they've noticed, they're like, hey, you don't have us over for dinner anymore. Or when we do, they say, what can we bring? And I said, you don't have to bring anything. I have it covered. Oh, do you have wine covered? I said, we won't be drinking any wine, but we have beverages covered.
Mhm.
And it's awkward for them. And so they'll bring their bottle. But now it's one bottle. They're not bringing multiples.
Yeah.
But it is a choice. And just like, you know, Dr. A's training today in conscientious leadership, he talked about how you're more likely to be like the 5 friends you hang out with. So if you're hanging out with people who drink, you're most likely to drink,
Yep.
probably, but maybe you cause them to say, whoa, Karen's not drinking and she's still fun.
Mhm.
Okay, maybe I don't have to drink, you know. And so it's kind of like you know, as a believer in Christ, you still eat with the prostitutes, you know, hoping that the prostitutes will stop being a prostitute.
Yeah. Well,
Because you
and it,
right.
and I agree with that. When there's a caveat, I would say, a nuance to that. We
Yeah,
want to still connect and be in relationship,
yeah,
but there's when I am struggling and I'm with someone else who doesn't look at alcohol as a struggle, they want it, then
yeah,
being in that particular relationship in that season of my life may not be wisdom.
correct,
Yeah. Yep.
correct.
A-
But
And
to add to what the original question was, um, is it hard to coach clients when you have fallen off the wagon?
Mhm.
And both Josh and Brian said yes, and 100% yes. However, I did a post a couple of months ago where I was raw, and it was one of those little live feed ones, and I broke down and I was sharing how I was struggling. You know, this has been a tough year. I lost my father, I lost my mother-in-law, and I recently lost my aunt. And so it's been a pretty crappy year. And I had a girlfriend of mine who never comments on anything that I talk about Optavia reached out to me, and she says, I want to congratulate you, and I want to share with you that I've been talking to everybody about you, not because of everything you've been posting about your health goals and your recipes. She says, but because of your boldness and your honesty.
Mm.
She says, I don't need your plan, but I applaud and support you, because up until that post, I thought you were perfect.
Oh, wow.
I thought you had all your ducks in a row. Thank you for being honest. Thank you for sharing that you also struggle, because you're more likely to help more people that way.
Yeah.
So that's my 2 cents.
Yeah. Thank you, Karen. Yeah, it's very interesting, and I'll call on you, Bill, next. It's interesting because most of what I had planned, I'm not a drinker. I'm not saying I'd never drink, but I never think about drinking. It's not really a thing. So that's just my own personal conviction and just my that's how I do me anyway. And so this whole workshop was geared more around was related to kind of food, but it translates just as well to alcohol. It actually can translate to any type of the biblical word is temptation. The word that I'm using that might be more accessible is craving or desire. That point of craving or that point of desire where you come to that crossroads. And we're going to be talking about that quite a bit here. Bill, you had something you wanted to share with us. Did you hear me, Bill? Yep.
Yes, somehow my phone rang and it came into my ears.
Oh,
And I don't know how to turn off this dumb 15 Pro Max. I'm sure
Oh.
there's a way to do it, but
yeah.
anyway. And I just learned today you can do that Loomis and Knox thing to turn on your flashlight and turn it off. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
But anyway, you know, Craig, we're just being honest and transparent here. So I haven't ever been on the struggle bus, period. The entire time I did program 12 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
One of the reasons for that, I think, is because my whole life was a struggle bus.
Oh.
And I put myself on my first diet when I was 11. I was Billy wears Huskies, and I had to go downstairs in the men's store to get my jeans. And that was my whole life. I did every diet on the planet, whether it was the Zone or Atkins or stuff you've never heard, Metrical, Slim Fast, grapefruit. I don't care what, I did it. And Betty is the one who did most of my diets for me. She never needed it, but she was the one who would cook the stuff, and I'd take weight off, and then I'd put it all back on and then some. Always seemed to find more. Take it off, put it on, take it off, put it on. And I hated doing that, but it was just life for me. And I never allowed myself to get big, but I was a whole lot bigger than I wanted to be and was comfortable with, frankly.
Yeah.
And so I was going up a pant size again, and I had a church with 6,000 people in it. I saw myself on gargantuan screens every Sunday. And of course, I hid my weight really well, to myself. And I was going up a pant size again, and I said, that's it. I'm just done. I'm done with this. And my daughter-in-law was doing something for cholesterol. And I said, what are you doing? And she was doing, Metafast. I didn't know what it was. Where do you get the stuff? She gave me a guy's name. I had no conversation. It was like a drug deal. I just said, hook me up. And whatever it is, if I have to hawk the house or taste like sand, I don't care. I'm done. Showed up, didn't taste like sand, didn't have to hawk the house, dropped 56 pounds in 14 weeks and never looked back. But I just said, this is it. I'm done. This is it. And it was like I just drew this impenetrable line. In fact, midway through the program, I was in Israel for a couple of weeks and in a kibbutz and various places. And if you've ever been to Israel, the banquets are just to die for, butter cellos and all this stuff. And one of my staff guys who was with me said, well, you're going to have falafel and shawarma and all that stuff. I said, no, I am not. That is not happening. Had them all before, many times, not doing it. What do you mean? And I said, I'm not going to have to re-lose weight. I've already lost once. I'm just not going there, period. And maybe it was because I was cheap. I'd paid for that. I didn't have a coach who was helping me with this stuff. I just did it, me and the books. It was me and Dr. Ray. That's what it amounts to. Yeah. And so, Craig, for me, I guess I would say that I set those habits. Now, I didn't drink. I haven't drunk for over 50 years. So that was a non-issue. But I think drinking, this is going to sound harsh. I don't mean it to sound harsh. Please hear my heart on this. Wanting French fries is no different than wanting whiskey. Wanting bacon is no different than wanting, whatever the drink of choice happens to be. It's the same addictive behavior. It's the same craving. It's the same desire. And, if you looked at it I had a client who said to me 2 weeks ago, in fact, after the conversation, I said, can I clone you? Anyway, can I do this? Because she said, Bill, I realized this is just like salvation. When I became a Christian, I shut the door in the old life. Done. It was just dead. I'm in a new life now, and I'm learning new stuff. And I thought, oh, you just made my week.
Yeah.
But when I see people become 5-in-1 junkies, it's the only way I can see it. It's no different than any other diet. I went back on the zone. I went back on Atkins. I went back to intermittent fasting. I went back to keto. I went back. And I just find myself tearing what hair I have left out to say, Dr. A gave us the habits. He gave us the guardrails. Just do it.
Yeah. Well,
And
thank you, Bill, for that. Because there's
so sorry it just becomes
no, you already made
frustrating.
the decision we're going to be talking about is one you made when you joined. You had already, and in my ministry, I call it a big decision, where you draw a line in the sand and you contemplate if I continue, you contemplate if I don't, and you decide to make a big decision. And for some, what I found in 20 years of running this ministry, men's ministry, is that some people come in and they're done when they get there. And then some people, they work it out over some trial and error and some time. And you had a lot of trial and error, and you came to that point of decision, and you were there. And then you had a book and a process that just kind of filled in all the gaps and gave you all the infrastructure. And you're like, bang, and it happened for you. And so what this workshop is going to be is helping us all get to that point of decision, because you all know about the infrastructure, but it can't be just infrastructure, and it can't be just the big decision, right? It's the when you start to flourish, it's when a combination of both, right? That decision and the infrastructure to develop yourself. So this is excellent work, excellent work. And for time's sake, I'm going to move forward a little bit here. So here is, let's see here. All right, there we go. So we were at this slide here. And so the curious question, and this is one that I actually want for those of us, if you've thought about this, why do you feel that you have been unable to stick to plan? Like what are the reasons? I won't even use the word excuses, but what are the reasons when you come up to a certain situation and you change your plan in a moment's notice? What are some of those ideas? Go ahead, Heather. You had your hand up.
My biggest thing, mine is food, and I work at a school cafeteria during the day, and it's constantly going back and forth through that cafeteria with just everything you can think, a smorgasbord of good food, sweets, everything. And I can be bulletproof for days and weeks and months. And then my weakness is when I get tired. When I get tired, I just kind of forget who I am, what I'm doing. And if I've had a hard day and I'm exhausted and I'm not on schedule, I can have something in my mouth before I even realize what I'm doing.
Mm.
So I guess it's when I'm tired, when I have kept to the schedule. That's my kryptonite.
Yep. Yep. And the term that I've come up to on that, I call it you enter a moment of temporary insanity, right? Where you're just not quite aware of what is, and you're just like a little bit insane for a short period of time. And you can awareness your way out of that, if that makes sense. You can realize, ooh, I'm getting a little stressed, I'm a little bit tired, and I'm around food. I'm going to relocate myself. And relocation, I'm trying not to get into all the solutions until workshop 2, but relocation is a fantastic strategy. Just move yourself further away from it. A strategy that's was in Dr. A's first book is when you plate the food in the kitchen and move to the table. You don't bring the food to the table where you can easily get seconds. So there's some strategies that we can use to just use proximity as a barrier to seconds. All right. And so I want to bring up a scripture here, and you won't believe this, but 2 weeks ago in our church service, they were speaking on the Holy Spirit and sin, and this scripture literally came up. It says, "Therefore, dear brothers and sisters, you have no obligation to do what your sinful nature urges you to do." And I think that that was so valuable. The terms that I used was, there's no requirement when we have a craving that we have to give in. It's not required. It's not life and death. There's not a gun to our head. We're not forced to. It's one of our options. We can choose to, yeah, okay, I'm going to go ahead and have some of that pizza. But it's not an obligation, a requirement. And I think that our part of our experience, we have our, our, if you will, our spiritual side, and then you have our flesh side, our temporal, our eternal, these two kinds of concepts that are in tension. And um, there's certain things that will be cravings or desires of our flesh, and desires that aren't in our best mind, our right mind, but they're in our kind of a carnal state, kind of a basic instinct state, right? And so when we have those ideas that come along, one thing to remind yourself is that I'm not obligated to follow this thought path. It's an option. And that, I think, will be quite liberating for you as you think through that. And so we're going to go through a couple of myths and thoughts here. And this is about those lies that we hear in our minds, those recorded almost tapes that what I find too with these ideas and thoughts is that the lexicon of vocabulary is limited. And what I mean by that is, you guys hear the same things in your brain. There's probably about 15 different options, but there's not thousands, and they're very, very base. And so these are some of the ones that I came up with. It's only, or it's just. It's only a cookie, or it's just one bite. Another one, a myth, is, oh, I gained my weight back because I didn't transition properly. And I know somebody that's in this meeting that transitioned by the book. That didn't mean that her cravings and desires would go away in the future. So somehow we tell ourselves, if I would have only transitioned properly, then I wouldn't have gained some of my weight back or all of my weight back. That is just a myth. The 5-in-1 is broken for me, or I must be broken. There's a thought that possibly comes into your mind occasionally. And I said that to myself. Well, it looks like the 5-in-1 doesn't work anymore. And I realized that actually I wasn't working the 5-in-1. I was working a version of the 5-in-1 that I had made up in my mind. And it close enough. There was a podcast that I did called Use Success in the 5-in-1. And it was done by here, let me switch this here. Nope, that didn't work at all, did it? There was a podcast that was done by that I did, and my original title was Horseshoes and Hand Grenades. Close enough ain't good enough. And I got a call back from Optavia, and they said, we workshopped that name a little bit because we didn't think it was that good. And we changed it to Use Success in the 5-in-1, right? And it talked about 5-in-1 ishing, because I was like, no, this is really like, you can't just be almost there. You're either in fat burn or you're not. And 10 carbs can make a difference. It is a precision situation. I mean, it really is. And we don't realize, that a piece of Trident gum has 3 carbs, one little piece. A piece of extra gum has, no, Trident has 1, extra has 3. So if you do three pieces of gum per day, that's 9 carbs just in gum. It's not even food. I had another client, just spoke with her today, and she said she was eating the melatonin gummies, I think. And the gummies had 3 carbs per gummy. And now she takes something different where it has 1 carb instead of 3. So she can do 3 of those and it's 3 carbs versus 3 of the other, it's 9. Well, if you go 10 carbs, if you go up to 85 is the sweet spot. If you get up to 95 carbs per day, you're kind of on the buffer. If you're over 100, you're probably not going to be in fat burn. So it's like, oh, why is this such a big deal? No, carbs are a huge deal. Carbs relate directly to blood sugar, and insulin and all of those systems are fine-tuned systems, right? So anyway, so these are a couple of things that let me pull this up again here. We want to jump. It's my first time using this technology, so it's I realize I can't go in and out like I normally do. Next one is I know what to do, it's just doing it. And when I've heard Dan Bell say that, he says if you knew everything of what to do, you would also know how to do it. So there's, even if you know what to do, there's one thing you don't know. It's how to actually do it. And so a question that I ask my clients when they tell me that, I say, if you and I went fishing and I knew how to catch fish and you didn't know anything about fishing and you went fishing with me, is there a good chance you'll catch fish? What do you think? Yeah, I'm a master fisher. I know where to go. I know how to bait the line. I know how to sing. You don't know anything how to do it. And I just show you how. You don't need to know anything and you can still catch fish. So actually knowing what to do is a way that I think our ego gets in there and kind of it's a really subtle move because our ego will get in there and say, you know what to do, it's just doing it. And then you start to beat yourself up and then you feel bad about beating yourself up. And then he says, well, why don't we go have something to eat? Isn't it, it's crazy, right? It's very seductive. This in scripture talks about our spirit is at war against the flesh and our flesh is at war against the spirit so that we won't do what we want to do. So there's going to be a natural tension between our spiritual eternal side and our temporal side, our carnal side, the instinctual side of us. There's going to be a natural tension between those. Don't expect it to go away. And if you frame it as hard or difficult or challenging or easy or simple, all of those I think are irrelevant. It just is reality. So if there's going to be this natural tension, this battle between these two experiences that we possess here on in these bodies, then just go, oh, so that's the way it is. My flesh is always going to crave what it craves, and it's just a craving, right? And so, and when someone says, I already had one, I might as well, you know, I'm already out of fat burn. I might as well just have 2 more pieces of whatever. All right, Brian? Yeah, I know. These are the things we say in our heads, right? And what's funny is we wait, oh, I'll get back on track tomorrow morning or Monday. Hey, it's only Thursday, bro. Like, why? You can actually get back on track the next bite. That's the soonest you can get back on. But that doesn't feel very exciting because I want to finish this pizza or whatever. One little bite won't hurt us. Or I've had a stressful day. That's you have the right. I've had a stressful day and I deserve it. Right? That's like what if I had a stressful day? I deserve to take excellent care of myself. What if that was the way that we thought, right? Oh, it was a special occasion. Like Bill said, he went to Israel and there's all this special food. Oh, it's a special occasion. Aren't you going to have some? What are you, weird? You're like, no, I am not losing this weight again. I mean, it was just a clarity, right? I'm tired of saying no, right? Um, get through one craving, if you get through one craving, the question to ask yourself is, will the next craving be more or less intense? And I'm looking for a day without any wild cards or variables. I'm looking for the right day where I can figure this out and it'll be easy. And so actually, I want to have Dawn talk a little bit about this get through one craving. Will the next craving be more or less intense? And so Dawn and I actually worked on this quite a bit. And I didn't realize we were going to be doing a workshop, but Dawn Carpenter worked through this a little bit and talk a little bit about some of the challenges that you have, just kind of refresh our minds about those, and then some of that mindset work that you did in the moment.
Okay. So, a lot of the same challenges that everybody else has. I had a weekly ladies group where they literally put out a 12-foot table buffet brunch every week. We had potlucks, we had, all kinds of things that were going on socially, but I had kind of come to that point of decision, like Bill was talking about, where it was like, I was going to commit to not one bite off my plan, because I had been doing 5-in-1-ish for on and off for a long time. And I had said a lot of those things that Craig had mentioned. I talked about thinking I was broken, or the 5-in-1 was broken, or, I deserved, or I had just gotten in this habit of allowing myself one bite of this and one bite of that. And so when I made that commitment, I also committed to going through those situations and not having one bite. And we had one particular dinner that we went to early in. So my commitment started September 1, and it was that very first week, and it was a potluck. And I thought, well, I'm going to be the person who brings the green salad, because I know I can navigate that. Plus they were having tacos, so I knew that was going to be golden. But then 3 amazing desserts show up, and my Achilles, my kryptonite is dessert. And so I thought about it, and some of those very thoughts that were on that list came through my head. Well, I could just have one bite, or maybe just a small piece won't hurt, and then I'll restart, but then I heard my mantra, which is actually words that I got from Craig, and from a conversation we had. And the conversation talked about how, really, are you going to let one bite keep you from totally killing your goals? Yeah, you can say it's only one bite, but again, it's only one bite, And so in my head, I heard, oh, come on, Dawn, are you going to let one bite of dessert? Is it really worth that much to totally not hit your goals? And it was hard. I went and got coffee, and I sat and I talked to some friends, and but I felt super accomplished when I left. I felt proud of myself like I haven't felt proud of myself in a really, really long time. And because I had kind of forgotten how good it feels to keep your commitment to yourself. And I had forgotten how empowering that is. And so really within just a few days, I was at our ladies' Bible study with all the other food again. And it was easier to not go to the table and to sit and just have great conversation and drink my coffee while everybody else was eating their food. And so over time, I feel like one success made the next time not as hard, but actually it was almost as if I was continuing to start to build that momentum of making those choices. So. Can't hear you, Craig.
Thank you, Don, for that. A little bit of a rookie maneuver there, right? This is where this whole thing came from, was this conversation with Dawn. And when she finally got it and had that breakthrough, it was so good. And we're going to share a lot of the details about what she did and the different conversations she had. Here's another one that's a myth that catches a lot of people. And maybe you've heard this in your own head. It says, what I'm eating is healthy, right? And so we'll be kind of talking, and they'll be off plan, and they're not they're not eating according to their 5-in-1 plan, and they'll say, well, I mean, I made healthy choices. I mean, I'm eating healthy. I was eating a piece of fruit. And so be cautious about that word healthy being a distraction, because when you're on the 5-in-1, eating healthy is very vague, and um, that's not the primary goal, is to eat healthy. It's to get to a healthy weight. And so when you say I'm eating healthy, that is irrelevant to the process of what you're actually trying to do. You want to get to a healthy weight, eating healthy, and fruit will come in the future. But right now, it doesn't qualify. I have a higher qualification for the foods that I'm eating right now, and just being healthy isn't a high enough criteria. Is that making sense? So you'll hear that in your brain. Oh, that was healthy. Yeah, but that was off plan. What is the thing that I'm actually focusing on? Brian, you had your hand up. Go ahead.
So Craig, I almost text you um to the side, but I think this will be good for the group. I said, first off, thank you for letting me be part of this group. I appreciate it. Can I ask a question? What if I want to gain muscle and lose fat?
Mhm.
Not weight is the issue. What do I do? Mine used to be cravings with food. I eat good. It is I eat a balanced good. I'm not doing 5-in-1. I do 4-in-2 plus an extra protein right now.
Mhm.
Um, do I lose weight by the 5-in-1, or do I, and not worry about the muscle right now, or do I go back and try to gain the muscle with the protein and go back to
Yeah.
the 5-in-1 to cut the weight?
Yeah.
I know muscle burns more fat, so I know
Yeah.
this
But it
may not
also,
be on topic. I'm just asking.
yeah. And so I definitely have an answer to that. And that's more, Matt, is a specific kind of protocol on how to move forward. And so I think we will get to that. And there actually, you don't have to choose between one or the other. You can do both of them um, now that we have aminos. So that is a great question. And I will table that. Actually, go ahead and throw that question as best you can into the chat, and then I will definitely come back to that.
One
Um,
more question.
y-
Why does a man do 5-in-1 the same as a woman? I've
uh,
always asked this. I've never got the answer.
oh, that's a fantastic question as well. And I will answer that one as well, just not right now. So put both those questions in there. I definitely have a thought through answer that I hope will be satisfying for you. Um, so I know I'm overweight. It's just there's so much stuff going on. I just can't do it right now. So these are those myths and those sayings, those voices in our head that give us the excuse to essentially put it off for tomorrow. When thinking about when you were successful last time, you tell yourself, I know what to do. I did it before. And of course, you have to ask yourself, is that helpful? And so we're coming up on what I call an awareness alert, right? Um, Awareness. It's not what you believe you are doing, it is only what you are actually doing. And what I mean by that, and I think I said this on Monday night, is you might believe that you're on the right road driving to your hotel, but it doesn't matter what you believe. It only matters if you are. Does that make sense? So whether you think you're doing, because people are like, I'm doing the 5-in-1 just perfect, I'm nailing it, but I'm not losing weight. Immediately, I know they're not doing it because the biology and the physiology can't say no when you get it right. There's some stress and some sleep. And if you're sick, there's a few little variables. But when you nail the 5-in-1 with 85 grams of carbs, spacing your meals out properly, getting in your water, a good measured, precise lean and green, your body can't deny weight loss. It's just a fact of science. And so when you see people that are only doing a pound or a half a pound or 3/10, right? Then there's something else going on, and there's probably an awareness function there. And then another one is when we start the 5 and 1, it's usually when it's our second or third time, we start where we left off. So we start with all the accommodations, the laughing cow cheese, the blue cheese dressing, the the almond milk in our shakes. And we start with all of the luxury items, on day one. And we didn't do that when we started the 5 and 1 the first time. We didn't have any optional extras, and we were really limited on our condiments. We were clean, we were precise, right? 5 and 1-ish will not take you to your goal, right? So that's the other one there. And so here we go. Why is that, coach? Why won't 5 and 1-ish take you to your goal? Or no? Karen?
No, so why is that we start off where we left off?
Oh, I'm not sure why. Yeah.
That. When you said that the other day, I'm like, oh my goodness, that's exactly what I'm doing. I'm starting over where I left off.
Well, it's what I did, because I forget about the emotional distress that went with. I talked to another client we were working out, and she was the one that showed up for the workouts. We talked for an hour, and she thought, when I lost my weight the first time, it was pretty straightforward. And I went back and looked at all the notes, and I said, no, it wasn't. You just forgot about all the emotional situations you went through, and all you remember is the technical details that you got to your goal. She goes, really? And I said, yeah, look at all the notes I took. I said, so when you think back, you think it was easier. And then here's a tricky one. Then your ego makes you feel, you feel shame, because why can't I get this right this time? And so that in order to get over the shame feelings, you go have something to eat to make yourself feel better. Like it's remarkable when you start to see behind the curtain, you see what's really going on here. Right. And so here's a little bit of prep for workshop 2, and then I'll answer a few questions here. So document one instance where you gave into a craving. All right. So think back through what were the circumstances, and have a little bit of detail. It was after work on a weekend. It was with friends. It was by myself. It was when I was on vacation. Get some of those details and reflect on the emotions, thoughts, and circumstances that led to the decision. And is this a common series of events that you get yourself into, right? One thing that I noticed a lot about when you're in situations like that is you can give yourself the excuse, or you can start building a habit. Every time you choose to go off your plan, you're reinforcing that behavior. And every time you choose to stick with it, you're going to reinforce something. And what I think is so interesting is that when we make a plan it's a well thought through plan. We came up with it when we were in our right minds. We were lucid and clear. And when we change our plan in the moment, I've never seen it go to a healthier choice. So we go to the party and we say we're not going to eat anything. And we get to the party and then we go, I think I'm going to modify that plan. I'm going to go ahead and have some of the dip. Right. And so whenever you hear that little voice in your hand, you drove to the party with a good plan, clear, you had your goals in mind, you were really clear. And when you get there and you hear yourself wanting to modify the plan, just stop for a minute and go, just kind of chuckle. Something's up here. Like, I know your method of operation. It's not a good plan to change my plan in the heat of the moment. You premeditated a amazing plan, and when you got there and changed it, I doubt your decision's going to be a higher quality one. I'll just say that. Bill, go ahead, and then I'm going to answer those two questions.
Just a really quick thing, and that is, Craig, what is underlying all this in terms of the conditioning thing is intermittent reinforcement is the single hardest type of behavior to extinguish. If you look at classical or operant conditioning, positive reinforcement, getting rewards, negative reinforcement, getting punishment, intermittent reinforcement, sometimes you get rewarded, sometimes you don't. Sometimes you get off plan, sometimes you don't. That is the hardest behavior to extinguish. That's why you need to do it consistently. That's the only way to build a habit.
It's brute
It's sort of
force.
like people thinking that they can do the plan Monday through Friday, be off for the weekend, and then pick right. You can't do it. Now you're back at day one again.
Yep. Yeah.
But the intermittent reinforcement thing to me just sort of clarifies so much.
Yeah. Yeah. And brute force, you brute force it. You cram it down your brain's throat, if it had a throat, if you will. This is just what I'm doing right now. Simmer down. We're going to get to a lot of the solutions. Today, this workshop was about uncovering and connecting with you and getting the buy-in so that you understand the clarity of what we're talking about here. And then on Thursday, when we go through it, we're going to have a lot of the mantras and a lot of the solutions and things like that. I wanted to answer the questions that you had. First one is about why does the 5-in-1 work for a 200-pound person and the same it works for a 150-pound person, or 300 and 150. The 5-in-1 is not the nutrition that your body needs to survive. It's a unlocking device that's called a key. It's a key to unlock access to the already eaten groceries. Those groceries you ate last week and last month that are stored on your body. So the 5-in-1 is the perfect scenario to go in and unlock the door to your body fat energy stores. So a man, it's the same key to unlock those stores, whether you're a woman or a man. But the amount of groceries you pull out of your fat stores for that 300-pound man, he's going to lose weight quicker. Why? Because he's pulling more groceries, more already eaten groceries. The 5-in-1 is just the catalyst to get access to the real energy stores. Yep. And if you stay in that fat burning state, you don't have hunger and all those things. So that's why the 5-in-1 works no matter how big you are. It's a common question, and that's the answer, because we have to change the way we think. The calories we're eating are not all the calories we're getting. That's just creating an environment to have access to all those calories. That's why you shrink so much, because you're literally sucking the energy out of all that fat. And there's a lot. 1 pound of fat is 3,500 calories. It's very energy dense. So that's really good. And the next question that you had, let's see here, was, oh, did you text those to me or did you put them in the chat?
I text and put it in the group message.
Oh, the group message for, yeah, got it. Okay. Yeah. Mind, cravings of food, good eat, balance. Oh, so for as far as exercise and stuff like that, the 5-in-1 plus the aminos, and you can lift weights in a fat burning state. I do it all. I've done it many, many times. Again, the two questions are related. As long as you're in a fat burn state and the door is open, then the aminos helps with the muscle rebuilding, and it helps with the hunger that the exercise will add. So you can do both. And I personally think it's better to do the 5-in-1 because the door to fat burn is wider. It's open bigger. When you do a 4-in-2, you close the door a little bit because you have more carbs introduced. And so you're not in as deep a state of fat burn. And then you add the aminos on top of that, and you might be at 100 grams of carb by the end there. And so now your body's battling, you have lots of hunger. So I would go straight 5 and 1, because now you're just pulling more, the door's wide open and you're getting access to as much fat as you need. And then the aminos kind of smooth it out a little bit. So Lonnie, you had your question up. We've got, if you still have a question, I would love to answer it.
So one of the questions, yes, thank you. So in just listening to what you're talking about, by the way, this is great information. I too am struggling in all honesty. And I can give all the excuses in the world, and, I've been through a lot of things this last few months, but it is still my choice. And it is a choice that I made. So now I have to rectify that choice. But the question that I have is, my one person that I'm coaching says that, he doesn't feel like he feels as well at the current weight he's at, and wanted to add 5 pounds back because he felt like he felt better. So how, when I hear that, to me, and maybe this is just my stinking thinking, but that's a trap to me. Right? Because if you're going to add back 5 pounds, what's going to stop you from adding 10 or 20?
Well,
So
if 5 is only 5, then there you know. But when you goes out of fat burn, you're going to put on about 3 pounds of glycogen, because you're basically refilling those glycogen stores. Glycogen is stored sugar.
yeah.
I mean, that's really simple way of talking about it, but it's stored sugar, and it's stored in your muscles and in your liver. And your body can hold about 3 to 4 pounds. So the first 3 to 4 pounds that you lose when you go into fat burn isn't fat, it's sugar water. And then when you come out of fat burn and you're refilling those stores, you'll gain 3 to 4 pounds of sugar water. Here's maybe an answer to a question you didn't even know you had. When you're in fat burn and you have those 5 extra croutons and you gain 2 pounds overnight, how could those 5 croutons lead to 2 pounds? Because it kicks you out of fat burn. Your body combines the carbohydrates with water that you're drinking, and it fills up that sugar water tank. So when you're in a fat burn state and you go in and out, you see a big jump in the scale, and then it goes back down pretty quickly too. When you're not in a fat burn state and you have 5 croutons, you're not going to see a 3-pound gain weight, because you're not in that fat burn state where your glycogen stores are low. So sometimes people they start to calibrate themselves by going in and out of fat burn and think, man, why can't I ever have a crouton? I gained 3 pounds. No, you can't have a crouton in fat burn, because it takes you out of fat burn. Once you're out of fat burn intentionally, and not by accident or by desire or craving, those croutons don't have the big shift anymore, because you're not filling and emptying your glycogen tanks. So that's why a little bit of carb can add to a lot of pounds, because it's the biology and the chemistry of how it all works. So anyway, we're going to conclude tonight. And in our little beta test group here, you can keep your questions going if you want to answer those questions in there, so we can all see that. All of these things are going to be helping us develop. If you can think of another question that might be good to ask, put it in there as well. I took a lot of notes from what you guys said tonight, and next week, we're going to get to a lot of the solutions and sort of the mantras, and really what is the secret to dealing with that moment of desire and that craving point. What does it, it's really actually really simple. You already know how to do it, but what we're going to share with you is that you're equipped already to do it. You already have what you need. You just have to have clarity about it. And we'll talk about that on Thursday. Does that sound good? Let me get a nice photo of all of us for our first ever one. So everybody smile for the camera. 3, 2, 1. All right. Thank you guys for your attention. Thank you for your honesty, and thank you for developing this workshop that we will eventually roll out to all the coaches. Because it is my sincere conclusion that if we get the coaches winning again with their own personal stuff, you'll become a light. You'll be magnetic for the world, and people need us. People need this. So we're going to do it. All right, you guys. Hey, thanks for your time. Have a good night, everybody. Bye-bye.